Over the past 6 years, the pundits have pointed out more than once that my presidency hasn't delivered on this vision. How ironic, they say, that our politics seems more divided than ever. It's held up as proof, not just of my own flaws, of which there are many, but also as proof that the vision itself is misguided, naive, that there are too many people in this town who actually benefit from partisanship and gridlock for us to ever do anything about it. I know how tempting such cynicism may be, but I still think the cynics are wrong. I still believe that we are one people. I still believe that together we can do great things, even when the odds are long. I believe this because over and over in my 6 years in office, I have seen America at its best. I've seen the hopeful faces of young graduates from New York to California, and our newest officers at West Point, Annapolis, Colorado Springs, New London. I've mourned with grieving families in Tucson and Newtown, in Boston, in West Texas, and West Virginia. I've watched Americans beat back adversity from the Gulf Coast to the Great Plains, from Midwest assembly lines to the Mid-Atlantic seaboard. I've seen something like gay marriage go from a wedge issue used to drive us apart to a story of freedom across our country, a civil right now legal in states that 7 in 10 Americans call home. So I know the good and optimistic and big-hearted generosity of the American people, who every day live the idea that we are our brother's keeper and our sister's keeper. And I know they expect those of us who serve here to set a better example. So the question for those of us here tonight is how we, all of us, can better reflect America's hopes. I've served in Congress with many of you. I know many of you well. There are a lot of good people here on both sides of the aisle. And many of you have told me that this isn't what you signed up for. Arguing past each other on cable shows, the constant fundraising, always looking over your shoulder at how the base will react to every decision. Imagine if we broke out of these tired old patterns. Imagine if we did something different. Understand, a better politics isn't one where Democrats abandon their agenda or Republicans simply embrace mine. A better politics is one where we appeal to each other's basic decency instead of our basest fears. A better politics is one where we debate without demonizing each other, where we talk issues and values and principles and facts rather than gotcha moments or trivial gaffes or fake controversies that have nothing to do with people's daily lives. A better politics is one where we spend less time drowning in dark money for ads that pull us into the gutter and spend more time lifting young people up with a sense of purpose and possibility, asking them to join in the great mission of building America. If we're going to have arguments, let's have arguments, but let's make them debates worthy of this body and worthy of this country. We still may not agree on a woman's right to choose, but surely we can agree it's a good thing that teen pregnancies and abortions are nearing all-time lows and that every woman should have access to the health care that she needs. Yes, passions still fly on immigration, but surely we can all see something of ourselves in the striving young student and agree that no one benefits when a hardworking mom is snatched from her child, and then it's possible to shape a law that upholds our tradition as a nation of laws and a nation of immigrants. I've talked to Republicans and Democrats about that. That's something that we can share. We may go at it in campaign season, but surely we can agree that the right to vote is sacred, that it's being denied to too many, and that on this 50th anniversary of the Great March from Selma to Montgomery and the passage of the Voting Rights Act, we can come together, Democrats and Republicans, to make voting easier for every single American. We may have different takes on the events of Ferguson and New York, but surely we can understand a father who fears his son can't walk home without being harassed. And surely we can understand the wife who won't rest until the police officer she married walks through the front door at the end of his shift. And surely we can agree that it's a good thing that for the first time in 40 years, the crime rate and the incarceration rate have come down together. And use that as a starting point for Democrats and Republicans, community leaders and law enforcement to reform America's criminal justice system so that it protects and serves all of us. That's a better politics. That's how we start rebuilding trust. That's how we move this country forward. That's what the American people want. And that's what they deserve. I have no more campaigns to run. My only agenda, I know because I won both of them. My only agenda for the next 2 years is the same as the one I've had since the day I swore an oath on the steps of this Capitol: to do what I believe is best for America. If you share the broad vision I outlined tonight, I ask you to join me in the work at hand. If you disagree with parts of it, I hope you'll at least work with me where you do agree. And I commit to every Republican here tonight that I will not only seek out your ideas, I will seek to work with you to make this country stronger. Because I want this chamber, I want this city to reflect the truth that for all our blind spots and shortcomings, we are a people with the strength and generosity of spirit to bridge divides, to unite in common effort, to help our neighbors, whether down the street or on the other side of the world. I want our actions to tell every child in every neighborhood, your life matters. And we are committed to improving your life chances, as committed as we are to working on behalf of our own kids. I want future generations to know that we are a people who see our differences as a great gift, that we're a people who value the dignity and worth of every citizen. Man and woman, young and old, black and white, Latino, Asian, immigrant, Native American, gay, straight, Americans with mental illness or physical disability. Everybody matters. I want them to grow up in a country that shows the world what we still know to be true, that we are still more than a collection of red states and blue states, that we are the United States of America. I want them to grow up in a country where a young mom can sit down and write a letter to her president with a story that sums up these past 6 years. It's amazing what you can bounce back from when you have to. We are a strong, tight-knit family who's made it through some very, very hard times. My fellow Americans, we too are a strong, tight-knit family. We too have made it through some hard times. 15 years into this new century, we have picked ourselves up, dusted ourselves off, and begun again the work of remaking America. We have laid a new foundation. A brighter future is ours to write. Let's begin this new chapter together. And let's start the work right now. Thank you. God bless you. God bless this country we love. Thank you.
The President of the United States clearly emboldened, seemingly a lot more confident, delivering a very, very strong speech outlining so many of the core principles of the Democratic base. The President clearly very warmly received by Democrats, not so much by the Republican majority in the House and the Senate. I think it's fair to say, Jake Tapper, as we see the President, he's going to be spending some time walking through the aisle, saying goodbye to members of the House and Senate, members of his cabinet, members of the Joint Chiefs. If he had delivered this speech in the weeks and months leading up to the midterm elections, maybe it wouldn't have been such a disaster for the Democrats.
Well, woulda, shoulda, coulda. He certainly was a much more optimistic message than we heard from a lot of the Democratic candidates on the stump. One much more focused on the economy, one much more optimistic. Remember, one of the reasons that President Obama was elected in 2008 and reelected in 2012 is because of the optimism that he is able to project. In fact, he reminded the American people of the first time most of them probably saw him, giving that there are no red states or blue states speech during the 2004 Democratic National Convention. And he ended his State of the Union speech this evening reminding people of who that guy was back in 2004, the one who wanted to unify the country. He said, he acknowledged that he has not been able to change the tone, to improve the tone, but he said he still longs to do that. He still wants to unite the country.
And he reminded the American people, reminded the Congress where the country was economically 6 years ago when he took office, the disaster he inherited, and how much it has improved over these past 6 years. And he went through point by point on the deficit, on the stock market, on job creation, economic growth. And he also did not shy away from Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, making the point that it has turned out to be such a bonanza for 10 million Americans.
Well, and he also pointed out that there were some parts of his legacy that if members of Congress, if the Republican House and Senate brought him bills that tried to undo them, he would veto the legislation, specifically doing away with Obamacare, taking away their health insurance, unraveling the new rules on Wall Street, the rules that passed in the first couple of years of his term, or refighting past battles on immigration. He issued veto threats.
And on Iran sanctions as well. If the Congress were to move ahead with new sanctions against Iran, he specifically said he would veto that legislation. I don't know about you, Jake. I don't remember a State of the Union address where I heard a president issue so many veto threats to the Republican majority, to the opposite party in the United States Congress.
That's right, except, of course, that the Iran sanctions bill is not just from Republicans. It's his fellow Democrats who are pushing that as well. In terms of other firsts, it's the first time, I believe, that the words, and this is just a sign of the times kind of thing, first time that the words Instagram, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender have ever been uttered in a State of the Union address, and the first time that a president has ever called for lifting the embargo against Cuba in a State of the Union address. Those are all firsts as well.
Yeah, he's since losing in the midterm elections, the Democrats, the president has really been emboldened to go forward with these executive actions, whether on immigration or Cuba, or whether climate change as far as the agreement with China is concerned. A lot of Democrats are thrilled, but you know what? The Republicans are not very happy right now, and they say his